Hello and welcome to this video tutorial for the Space Combat Kit for Unity, where we'll be covering what a vehicle is conceptually as well as how to create a new one using this kit. So in the last video, we created the player using the game agent component, and we also covered how to make the player enter a vehicle. But what is a vehicle exactly? Well, a vehicle is the physical representation of a player or AI, that is, a game agent in the game. The first-person character and spaceship prefabs provided in this kit are all vehicles, and to these you can add any vehicles you create for your game. That's because this kit has been designed as a foundation for any kind of vehicle. Even though the content is focused on spaceships, the codebase needs to be flexible enough to integrate with the other types of vehicles in your game. To understand this in more detail, let's take a look at a simple schematic of how a vehicle in the Space Combat Kit is structured. As we go through it, we will take a look at the Space Fighter prefab provided in this kit to see how it looks in practice. Here we have 4 different layers that make up a vehicle. To start off with, we have the vehicle component. This component represents any kind of vehicle that a game agent can enter and exit, and does not contain any functionality related to a specific type of vehicle. It is used for the first-person character, the space fighter, and can be used for any other kind of vehicle you create for your game. Here on our space fighter prefab, we have the vehicle component added. To create a new vehicle, all you have to do is add a vehicle component to the root transform. If we take a look in the inspector, you'll see we have the ability to set the label that appears in the loadout menu for this vehicle, as well as the vehicle class, and we can also add functions to different events that occur on the vehicle. In the next layer making up a vehicle, we have module managers. These components contain functions that are called in the event that a module is mounted or unmounted from the vehicle, and extending the module manager class enables a script to update references to module components, or react in some way to a new module configuration. Module managers also allow input scripts to easily interact with and control specific types of functionality, including engines, weapons, radar, health, power, and more. In many cases, they are simply a kind of interface for interacting with modules themselves. It is recommended to add module managers to the root transform of the vehicle so that input scripts can find them easily. To demonstrate, here on the Space Fighter's root transform, we have a bunch of different module manager components, which are components that extend the module manager base class. The triggerables manager manages triggerable modules such as gun modules and missile modules that are loaded onto the ship. Through the triggerables manager, the player can fire weapons according to a specified trigger index and set up trigger groups for different inputs. The health component manages armor and shield generator modules that are loaded onto the ship. Through this component, the player can access information about the vehicle's health at any time. These are 2 examples of how module managers are used. Extend the module manager base class with your own scripts to provide a pathway for interacting with your own modules. Next, we have module mounts. These components allow modules of specific types to be loaded at specific points on a vehicle. Basically, when a module is loaded onto a module mount, it notifies all of the module managers, which update their references to relevant components on the module. If we take a look in the vehicle's hierarchy, we can see a bunch of module mounts set up for guns, missiles, health generators, and power plant. You'll see they all have a module mount component added. To create a new module mount, simply add a new game object to the vehicle's hierarchy and add a module mount component. You'll see there's a bunch of settings that you can set in the inspector, which we'll be going into more detail on in a later video. Finally, we have modules. These are small containers of functionality that can be added to and removed from a vehicle at any time. They include weapons, health generators, power plants, and more. To demonstrate a module, let's take a look at the energy projectile weapon provided in this kit. You'll see it has a module component on the root transform. To create a new module, simply add a module component to any game object and customize the values in the inspector. Make sure the module component is on the root transform of your object. Now to put this all together, let's take a quick look at how an input action passes through the vehicle via the module manager all the way down to the module, using a gun module as an example. If you recall, the triggerables manager on this vehicle is a module manager. This means that when a gun module is loaded onto one of the vehicle's module mounts, this component will be notified. Because the gun module has a triggerable component, which we can see here, this component will be stored in the vehicle's triggerables manager component. When the player presses the fire button, they send that input to the triggerables manager, which then looks among the triggerable modules that it has stored for any that have a trigger index corresponding to the one that the player is firing. If so, that triggerable module is triggered, which fires the weapon. By now, you should have an understanding of how a vehicle works in this kit, and how input is passed through the vehicle to different areas of functionality. That wraps it up for an overview of what vehicles are in this kit and how to create a new one in your game. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.